In this video, I'm going to show you how to add a sill plate to the top of your foundation wall. We're going to apply it to this structure right here. We've already built the foundation walls for a crawl space, and we'll be adding the sill plate. This image comes from your textbook. In the image, you can see some installers are placing a sill plate. That's this board right here. In this case, there is a sill seal underneath it. Okay, you can see it under. Sometimes this is applied, sometimes it's not. You can also see there's some objects that are protruding. Those are the anchor bolts that are cast into the top of the foundation wall. So the sill plate is set and fastened on top of the foundation wall using those anchor bolts. You may also hear a sill plate being referred to as a mud sill. But for the purposes of this exercise, we'll refer to it as a sill plate. So I'm back in the Revit file, and this is the foundation wall that we're going to apply the sill seal. It will go on the entire perimeter, and it's going to align with the exterior side of the wall. This is another page from the textbook, and you can see a number of conditions where the sill plate is installed. In this case right here, we have some 2x members that are being framed above it. And as it notes here, the sill is bolted down and leveled on top of the foundation wall. The floor joists, which are these elements here, are toe-nailed to the sill. We'll talk about nailing patterns later. You can see here there's something called a termite shield right here. In areas of high termite risk, this metal shield prevents the termites from traveling undetected from the foundation into the wood framing above. So when they try to crawl up the outside here, they can't get over this little lip. In this case, we have a different type of framing. These are referred to as eye joists. And again, we have our sill plate right here. And notice how it aligns with the edge of the foundation wall. And we have this anchor bolt that is shown as a dashed line cast inside the foundation wall. And this last one is one other type of condition here where we have something called a rim joist. And as noted here, this is a structural composite material. This is what we'll be using in our project too. Now back in the Revit model, we're going to use this structure here to illustrate how the framing will be kind of assembled and come together. Now in some of the other structures, we won't go to the same level of detail. We'll show wall assemblies that have these components inside them, but we won't be showing them piece by piece. In this, we will be showing them piece by piece. So one of the first things that we need to do is bring in a component that allows us to size and orient the sill plates on top of the foundation wall. So what I need to do is bring in some dimension lumber. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and once there, I'm going to go to Load Autodesk Family. And I'll start over with my search here. Under the filters, I'm going to look for structural framing, and then I'm going to select wood. So you should see there is an option for dimension lumber. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to load. Okay, we're going to bring in a number of types. So I'm holding down the control button so that I can select multiple sizes at the same time. I think 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, 2x10s, 2x12s, probably all we're going to need for the project. So I'm going to go ahead and click those and then hit OK. And if we need to bring in more, we can do that later. Now, when I go to Structure and Beam, I'll see that these components have been brought into the Revit file. We're going to make our sill plate not out of a 2x4, but out of a 2x6. So I'm going to click on 2x6 here. Now, one thing you'll notice, it's typical that you would see a beam oriented in the vertical direction like this. And there are many physical reasons why one would do that. It's just more efficient in terms of the shape of the beam to be oriented vertically like this. But as you saw with those previous images, our sill plate is actually oriented horizontally. So we're going to need to make some changes to this component so that we can have the proper orientation. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit Type, and I will create a duplicate of this 2x6, and I'm going to call it sill plate 2x6 and say OK. All right, now what we'll do is we'll flip the dimensions. So as discussed in the slideshow from chapter 3, dimension lumber has a nominal size. In this case, the nominal size is 2x6, but the actual size of these members is 1.5 by 5.5. So I'm going to switch these so that my B and D dimensions are flipped. I'm going to say apply and OK. All right, now you won't see any change to the icon here, but when we place this, you should notice that it has been converted to a horizontal orientation. Now I'll go ahead and start placing these members, and keep in mind that sometimes you need to place things in a clockwise direction, sometimes in a counterclockwise direction, depending on what relationship you want with the objects that are already in the model. Okay, so as you can see here, it's placing it on level 1, and I clicked this box that says chain, which would allow me to kind of make a continuous arrangement of these. And I'm going to go ahead and start clicking here. I've got my sill plate selected, and I'm going to go, you'll notice I'm going to the outside of the foundation wall. And I'm kind of going to zoom in as I need to hit those intersection points. Press enter. And what you may notice is that nothing appears. And one of the reasons for this is that structural elements in Revit are shown with a single line. So that line is on top of the edge of the foundation here, and that's why it's not appearing. In order to see them in full, I need to change my detail level from coarse to fine. So there you can see these components have been placed in the model. But we'll notice when we go to a section, so I'm going to go to section 1, that make sure too on this one, if you haven't already, to change the detail level. First of all, those sill plates are too high. They should be sitting on top of the foundation wall, and they also need to have the alignment with the wall below. So to repair the alignment, I'm going to go to the Modify ribbon, click on Alignment. First, I choose what I want the object to align with. I'm going to use these reference lines of the column grids for that. I'll click here, and then I want to select the outside of the sill plate. And I'm going to need to go around and do that to all the sides of the sill plate. Oops, for some reason I have 2 located there. So I am going to click on this and delete it. Okay, hopefully I may need to repeat that process, but we'll take a look when we do the section in the opposite direction. So again, modify, line, click the structural line and slip that over. Now I don't have a section running the opposite direction, so I'm going to make one of those right now. Section, and I will put 2 spots, and I'll notice that there's another section here, and I have the same issue here. For some reason, I have 2 of those. Okay, so I will repeat that process. I'm going to change my detail level to fine, And then I will start to form the alignments with the column line, click on the sill plate. And again, align. All right, now let's take a look at this in 3D. So here I have these sill plates wrapping around, but as I mentioned before, they're too high and we're going to need to lower them. So this time I'm going to go to the south elevation. And again, you can see they're not appearing because they're single line, and I will change that to fine, and now I can select them. Okay, now let's check and see how high these are. I'm going to use the measure tool here, and I want to move them down 1.2 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to make a window. And then when I go over to the offsets here, I'm going to say -1 foot, 2.75, Control C, and Control V, and apply. Okay. So now they should be sitting where they are supposed to be. I'll go to my section and take a look at that. The line weights are a little heavy, making it a little bit difficult to see, and that's because my scale is set to 1/8 of an inch. This is how the sill plate should look at this point. And here's the 3D view. So I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see how they're oriented on top of the foundation wall.